I'm very excited to introduce our next Q&A. It's going to be with Robert Skinner. And Robert actually describes himself as a digital transformation evangelist. Officially, he's the Vice President of Digital Strategy and Marketing Technologies at FordDirect. And he has got some really interesting things to share with us about AI and ML. So Robert, I'm going to let you go ahead and hopefully share your screen and run us through a couple of slides.
Yeah, just for an orientation on the discussion, can you see the slides?
Yes, they look great.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just for the background for people, great to see you again, Tanya. For people who don't know who FordDirect is, we're a company that was founded 20 years ago. This year, actually, it's our anniversary, and we were founded as a joint venture between Ford Motor Company and some of the dealers. At the time, it was the idea of actually driving online sales. So it's taken a little bit of time to get there, but we're in the neighborhood now. And so the dealers are very important in the relationship. We have kind of our two constituents are the dealers and Ford and Lincoln Motor Companies to try to support them. And some of the things we're going to talk about today in terms of, the use of AI and machine learning and performance advertising at scale really place the challenges for us, in the nature of what we're trying to do here, because we do have in the U.S. about 3,800 Ford and Lincoln dealers. So you take that and start to multiply it by the channels that we are looking to deliver various types of advertising, and those channels are growing. And then you look at the amount of campaigns that each individual dealers are doing on a regular basis. And then throw in the fact that these guys are very good businessmen. They're very fierce competitors, and they want to be personalized even at their own dealership level. They compete with each other right down the street, so they want personalization. So when you add all that together, it's a complicated effort to try to do it at scale. So we've been working very hard to try to pull the pieces of the puzzles together, including using machine learning and AI and some real-time integration services to be able to deliver audiences. And that's kind of the primary use case we'll talk about, is being able to leverage audiences in the paid media channels to be able to optimize those channels, but doing it across that many channels times that many campaigns times that many dealers, in real time is a challenge. And we'll talk to you about how we do that through partners, which even is unique as well. So to just give you a kind of a flavor of what happens to make all this happen from a use case standpoint. And one specific use case is when we use we deliver our advertising through partners, as I'll talk about as we get into the Q&A. Each ad actually comes with a call tracking phone number, and when somebody calls that phone number at a dealer, we're able to map it to the campaign, to the dealer, to the channel, all the things you would expect, but we're also taking that transcript of that call and we're processing it through our decisioning platform, which allows us to actually pull out lots of data around that call and be able to adjust what audiences we might put them in from a propensity standpoint. And through natural language processing, we determine what their vehicle of interest was from that call. So these are kind of the practical use cases of machine learning and AI and rules-based tools to actually get a result from it. And so this has been where we started. We're rolled out, we're a little over 1,000 dealers right now, and we're scaling all that as we speak. We went through a pilot period, but it really allows us to add some unique audiences, and we'll talk about first-party data as we get through this, I know. And so, we sometimes it's, you talking about yourself, but when your partners are talking about the uniqueness of what we're doing, that comes through a little stronger in terms of what we've been able to put together, and we think is pretty unique in the industry, and our ability to help these dealers spend their media dollars efficiently. They don't have huge dollars, most of them. And so we want every dollar to go towards those leads and sales. So that's what we're helping them do. So that's kind of the quick setup for our discussion today. I'll stop the share here and we'll come back.
Well, like everything at Ford, you know, you guys are a well-oiled machine, and we're going to have a conversation offline about dealer advertising, because I probably don't write enough about the actual dealer advertising. I tend to focus a lot on the factory, but like you said, the dealers are spending a ton of money and doing some really interesting work. So you talked about, I think it was your second or third slide, AI and ML, and you know, I know they're often hyped but rarely shown implemented. So what were the most important steps that you guys did that paid off, didn't pay off, and where did you learn the most?
Yeah, it's funny. I just saw a Gartner presentation about use cases of AI in marketing, and one of the things they pointed out right off the bat was in the hype cycle for AI, it's now on the dissolution curve because you know, trying to get those use cases is you know, has been a challenge. So we you know, really we're looking to leverage our unique position to take all the data and the data integrations that we have and be able to leverage that on the behalf of the dealers and the advertising. I think so. We had, you know, the right ideas in terms of, all right, connect the channels, connect the data, and then leverage machine learning, adaptive, predictive, all those things to get us there. But there's challenges in having the data ready to activate, and it's still, you know, work in process. This is all work in process. It's going to be ongoing. So that was one of the things that was a challenge in actually getting your data in a position to be able to let these kinds of tools get the learning and do the activation and then implement. You know, matching, especially as we started looking, you know, from our first party data standpoint, how do you stitch all the various types of data together? How do we make sure our identities match, and then we're targeting the right, you know, the right consumer through that process. And then organizationally, we had, you know, there was quite a few changes for us to, you know, to really lean into this. It took a lot of evangelism to get it to a point where it's like, okay, all right, it's not, you know, it's not inbound, outbound, it's not this channel and that channel, it's all channels, and using data to be able to communicate. So we've learned a lot. You know, some lessons, we would do things a little differently, but we certainly have kept the foot on the pedal, and we're moving it forward.
So to drill down just a little bit, to get into some specifics, how are you using an AI ML platform to deliver audiences and then manipulate the audience to search, display, and social?
Yeah, so we've connected all those channels via, and it was kind of a complicated work stream because you know, when you think about some of these tools, they might be built, you know, with an API to manipulate audiences at a brand level. Well, we're talking, you know, 3,600 different accounts. So we had to figure out how to do that, how to do it at scale. So, you know, we could push audiences for every individual dealer and or partner, so they could use those. So we, you know, so we had to go through some learning on that and so we have APIs basically that can push to, you know, MCC level or some MCC or right to the accounts themselves. And then it was a matter of us getting the data and the audience structure and what kind of audiences we wanted to serve in a way that our adaptive and predictive models can take those and then make the decisions, you know, is it high, medium, or low? And we're also doing bid modifiers for those as an example in search. As part of that. So it allows us to take our very, you know, high propensity audiences we might have data associated with, they have a private offer available to them. So we know, you know, they're in the market, there's cash on the hood, you know, we want to pay a little extra to get that search ad in front of them. And so all that's taken into context. So we've built that machine. We have some models that feed an adaptive model, and then we have all the rules and orchestrations that go along with that, and then be able to deliver it via all these APIs to all the different channels. It's a little bit of a spider's web.
Yeah, well, and data itself, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about data. Is there an increasing focus on using first party data because of walled gardens and the cookieless world, and how is that working for you guys?
Yeah, certainly we, when we look to really do this from the first place, what we did realize is we're kind of sitting on a treasure trove of first party data. We are our own walled garden in a essence. And if you look at, how Amazon and Facebook and Google are doing it, we have a 10 million or so visitors a month to Ford.com. We have equal or more of that to our 3,800 dealer websites. FordDirect has multiple platforms that we support, but all dealers have a website from us. So we have all the analytics associated with that. And so we wanted to be able to leverage that first party data, knowing how valuable it is and how accurate it is in terms of versus the third party cookies and some of the third party data sources. So we focused right from the beginning on first party. We are now looking at other sources and attributes to add to our models that may not be within our walls, but it's been very good. There's a lot of it. We still are activating on more of it. We have some we do everything with privacy by design kind of mentality for the consumers. So we have a lot of CCPA implications across Ford and FordDirect and the dealer. So we have to take that into context, but it's been great. And I could see where that this will really help us as we move into the next generation of advertising with cohorts and personas as the third party cookie goes away, that we'll just be able to extend that from what we've done. So I think we set a good foundation.
Yeah, it always is weird to say a cookieless world, but that's kind of what we're coming up against, a cookieless world. Anyway, I like
the cookie apocalypse is my favorite.
I'm glad real cookies are still here, actually. But
yes,
anyway, back to our discussion. I know FordDirect is in kind of a unique position between the factory and the dealers. So are you able to use first party data to deliver audiences for the dealers? And are dealers really super demanding? Do they want a lot of choices, or how are they to work with?
Yes, they're demanding, and rightly so. I was an entrepreneur for many years, so I really like the mentality of the dealership community. Is they're great competitors, they're good community people, but they are demanding, and so some of the challenges and things that we have to deal with, and again, I don't see how we could do it without a platform like we put in place. Is we've got to handle each of each dealer's data as if it's just a one-to-one relationship. So we set up a consumer dealer relationship with every single one of those transactions I just discussed. So if somebody goes to one dealer website and then they go to another dealer website, and we got CRM from one dealer and CRM from another, we can't mix those. We have to be able to leverage how we're doing this with that dealer. So and so that was a real challenge, but great sources of data. We have lots of data between us, but those are some of the kinds of things that they're very adamant about. Their data is precious and they want it to be leveraged for them, and we understand that, and we've had to build the tools and the mechanisms to do that. But certainly there's lots of great data in the system for us to leverage and then help them get the media efficiencies out of that, our ability to activate across the different channels without them having to figure all this out.
And it really does sound like it's a spider web with all the different dealers, and just kind of mind-boggling, actually.
And it's not only dealer to dealer, because that's dealer to Ford. So we can share some things with Ford and other things, both ways. So, it's, there's a lot of work that goes on just to, analyze that whole process and make sure we're compliant with all the regulatory stuff coming. But we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, before I ask my last question, I just want to remind the audience that if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and Lisa is going to be standing by to get you queued up to ask your questions of Robert. Since, having Robert is such a great thing, we want to give you a chance to ask your own questions. But I just also wanted Robert to answer one last question for me, which is, what have you learned about bringing programmatic in-house? I mean, there's got to be a lot. And has there been more testing, or how have you guys handled it?
Yeah, actually, so there was a journey here. We brought programmatic in-house to learn how we can, attribute and look at the whole journey as much as we can. We have dealer websites, we have all the advertising. We really wanted to understand the journey, which is a complex one with automotive shopping, and it doesn't happen every day. It happens, over years process. And so we really focused on what were all the, we had to get into it to a level that we understood what all the advertisers and all the dealers were going through, and tested this process that I've just been talking about out. But what we did learn as part of that is doing the campaigns is very intense, and it's a lot of work, and trying to get a hold of the dealers and have them approve all the copy and all the things that go on in the process was something that we couldn't scale as FordDirect. And because they're so fiercely competitive, we couldn't offer to everybody and they would be satisfied. So really, we used it as a platform to really get in and understand every aspect of what we were trying to do, including our multi-touch attribution and all the data work that we just talked about. And then we strategically went out to multiple partners, but with a different plan than we previously had. We understood the value of our audiences, and we understand the value of the analytics data coming back to keep the virtuous cycle going. So we actually have 6 partners currently that are actually doing the campaigns and the advertising for the dealers. So the dealers have choice, but they all could leverage everything we just talked about, and we could scale. So now we're scaling. They have choice. They can move back and forth, but we had to do an implementation that was quite unique for everybody. Nobody has kind of integrated the kinds of things that we're integrating, so that we don't lose all that bring the programmatic in-house virtue that we found. So it was a great lessons learned, and it's established what we're doing now, which is rolling out very successfully.
Cool. Well, we've got a couple questions from the audience. They're too shy to actually ask them themselves, so they've typed them into the chat box, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Lisa?
some of them are going to, well, Annie, I know, has something, so we can get her to talk first.
Okay.
How did you know? I always
You always have something.
Well, this has been kind of one of the cooler presentations that I've seen in a while, because we're starting to use the Pega system as well. I saw, Rob, that Mitch Rebar, and he's our person that's implementing this whole thing for Chase.
Okay.
So, okay. I wrote down so many questions. So you're doing the personalization and the customization using Pega systems, right? It sounds like, did you create your own in-house paid search bidding tool using this AI system as well, or are you just creating custom landing pages?
No, so it's a combination of things. So we're using, there is a tool called Paid Media Manager that allows us to deliver those audiences. And then we had to do a bunch of customization around the scaling issues that I talked about. We do have, dynamic landing pages so that we can, take and modify those too when they land. But the key here was to start with what we started with was really moving individuals between these audiences and propensities to help the media efficiency. And then now we're integrating into other use cases on different types of website personalization as well. And then we're tying all that together to CRM channels and et cetera. The goal is to get all the channels, right? And wherever you see somebody, you message them with whatever the next best action is.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, not to interrupt Annie, but we have another question from Jeff Alderman. Jeff, you there?
Hey, Bob. Great talk. Always great to see you. We'll have to grab a stogie when it's free and clear here. Yeah, so it's great to see innovation here in Detroit. Obviously, Automotive is the front runner. We've been through this a lot of times before. We'd love to just kind of understand as well, kind of just sharing of information kind of up the stream as well, right? Connecting the tier 1, tier 3 see if there's any kind of big progress that have been made over the last even 8 months during COVID when dealerships were forced to shut down. Just kind of curious how those communication streams and the data flowed back and forth, and if there's been any changes.
Yes, it actually accelerated. It was, it was the things we were planning all got pulled forward as fast as we could. Obviously, with us being a key support entity for the dealers, we were just heads down from day one, providing every possible resource we could to help them manage through the different closures and service only and sales or service. And then we've really worked closely with Ford to start to integrate across the tiers. That's kind of a personal, and we have made progress, and we're starting to orchestrate and coordinate more and more of this messaging across the tiers. That's the plan. And I never met anybody who shopped for cars by tiers. So we got to consider the journey, and it goes across all.
Yeah, and then how about too, just the direct to consumer shift? Obviously, there's been a lot of kind of movement towards that, at least from an advertising side, right? With the different auto endemic sites trying to get cars directly to consumers without going to the dealer. Just kind of curious if there's been any headway on that front as well.
Well, as you said, it's not e-commerce, it's commerce now. So we're working on that, but we're doing it completely in conjunction with the dealers, so the dealers participate in the process, at all levels still, or I should say, obviously in delivering the vehicle. So, the various types, so the Mach-E and the Bronco, launched the reservation process and, and an order process, and some of those, most of them get completed at the dealer. There's some that are, as we're growing out, that you could do fully and online, but you still, you transact with the dealer. So, we're still kind of staying strong with the dealers, and the direct to consumer stuff is based on all the activities I just talked about. We support that from our side, and I think it's going to stay that way.
And last question, my 7-year-old was wondering, will her first car be a flying car?
Hey, I've always wanted a helicopter, so maybe, we'll see one coming. I see them out there, but that feels a little scary, especially it seems like people on the roads these days, since not driving as much during COVID, are a little more wild just as it is. So we have to take that one step at a time.
That is true. And you're a popular guy. We have 2 more questions. Let's make them quick. I want to let them get them in. Peter Jensen from Skechers. You want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So Robert, I had a question. How do you guys QA the automated audiences? And have you guys found any inefficiencies in creating or activating against those audiences? I was kind of curious about that.
So we're, we have actually an audience center of excellence. So we go through a process to get them, what we think is, the right data and the right process. So we're pretty rigid on the process of the data because we have to be, in terms of how we handle the dealers' data. This is a fairly new program, and the initial indicators are coming back really, really strong. It looks like, what we're doing is working, and we're just enhancing that. So as we're doing that, and we're looking at broadening those audiences, we're putting in, basically the processes to validate, that closed loop of those activations by audience. And I think, over 2021, we'll be better off at looking at, what's working, what's not, at more incremental levels. We know as general it's working, but we're getting there.
Great, Peter, and thank you. And then just finally, Alex, hear back from him. You can have your question.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, and Robert. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned that you took programmatic in house with the purpose to learn, which is a fantastic reason, and that it helped you better understand your customer journey. How did taking programmatic in house help you guys better understand your customer journey?
Well, we mapped out originally just like every data attribute we expected to capture from every different channel, and then how we were going to tie it together to understand that journey through all the different sites. So we were able to literally, follow and track down to, a person went to multiple websites, what different vehicles did they look at, what ads did they see, which ones did they click on, so we were able to really map out some pretty interesting journeys that then led us to where we are now and understanding, okay, where we could still see those as we start to see some of this security go away, where can we influence that? And as the changes happen, how can we try to fill those blind spots? But it helped us in that time period because we could kind of see what was happening, and now there's some black holes, but we're figuring out how to get there.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Great.